What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. Your host, as always, your boy, Clint, bringing you the undefeated post-weigh-in show for UFC 280. Holy crap, folks. I cannot wait for this one. I am beyond excited. Today is going to be a tough day to get through. We got 24 hours until this bad boy kicks off, and I am just beyond stoked. Watching these face-offs, watching these weigh-ins, it's got me more amped up than I thought I was going to be for this card. It's so good. This is Pub Sports Radio. Smash the like button for me. The lines are presented to you by Superbook Sports. Make sure you go check them out over there. They will be doing the usual KO prop promotion. If you have a bet on the main event, for every knockout on the card, you're going to get, I believe it's a $10 bonus. Go check out the rules on the site. But that's a fun bonus to root for knockouts on fights that you don't have any action on. So, good way to play the game. Let's get straight on into this. As usual, if you want the full-on breakdown, check out the Monday show. We're going to take one final look at these fighters, weigh-ins, face-offs, see if we can get any extra little edge by noticing slight discrepancies in their bodies, their manners, their stability, the way they face off, who won the mental battle, stuff like that. Trying to find that extra little edge and then solidifying our bets for the week. First off, Lena Landsberg taking on Hosa. We got both women coming in at 135. No issues whatsoever, really, for either one. Carol looked like she was a bit lobster-faced, but can't really complain too much about that. Probably just jumped out of the sauna. Her abs were far more pronounced this week, though. Something that I noticed, Rosa looks like she's got the hard body thing going on now. She's starting that evolution you see these young fighters go through when they take this profession on and actually make it their day job. She is transforming that body. When they face up, these two size off well. This was intense but respectful. Nothing crazy from these two ladies. Carol has blown up to a minus 350 favorite. I think the majority of us on Twitter are on her, and I think it makes a ton of sense. This is one of those ones where Lena Landsberg is tough, but she's been knocked out a couple times. She's 40 years old. I think an attritional KO from Carol Rosa late in this fight is an option. I have her in a moneyline parlay. I think that's kind of the safest way to play it. Rosa by decision is probably the most likely outcome, but when you're getting plus 400, plus 500 on that knockout prop, or around 3, like, I can't say no to those kinds of spots because Lena Landsberg is getting older. Eventually, they drop off that cliff, and her opponent, Carol Rosa, is getting younger. Not she's getting younger, but she's getting better. You know what I'm saying. Next fight up, Malcolm Gordon taking on Mohamed Mokayev. We've got 126 for both these guys. Malcolm Gordon, we all make fun of this guy. We make fun of his chin. You know, we mock the fact that maybe he shouldn't belong here in the UFC, but holy crap, is he shredded. This guy is ridiculously in shape. Mohamed Mokayev, intense stare down, gave a solid flex, shooting to be the youngest champion in UFC history. And you know what? I've laughed at most of the people that have made that claim, but I kind of almost believe it with this kid. This is one of the ones that might actually be able to pull that feat off. Gordon has a little bit of a size advantage here in this spot. Mokayev was trying to mess with him, trying to get him to flinch at the weigh-ins and punk him a little bit. Gordon never budged. Like, this is one of those spots where even for a guy who the world has essentially counted out, Mohamed Mokayev, a minus 1,400 favorite. You're getting plus 8-1 on Malcolm Gordon. He's in there and confident in himself and his abilities. I'm looking at the KO prop for Mohamed Mokayev just because I think the chin of Gordon is going to be the story here. I think Mokayev is going to come out and try and make a statement finish. I think that the UFC has given him this opportunity to present that to him. That has taken some action. It was about plus 250 earlier in the week. Superbook Sports already has it down to plus 195. So this line is moving. Action is coming in on the KO specifically for this one. Even though you've got Mokayev, who's a guy primarily a grappler, can be a bit of a decision machine, the weakness of Gordon's chin is something that we have to try to take advantage of if we can. I mean, what are Gordon's path to victory? If he was going to win this fight, is he going to out-wrestle Mohamed Mokayev? Not a chance. Is he going to knock out Mohamed Mokayev? Again, no chance there because he does not want to be on the feet. Could he submit Mohamed Mokayev? That's really the only opportunity he's going to have in this fight. It's a matter of, does it go over or under 1.5 rounds for me? Under 1.5, again, has taken some love. It's been sitting at minus 125 the entire week. It is minus 130 as of this morning. So I'm looking at Gordon... I'm looking at Mokayev by knockout, plus 195, plus 200, wherever you can get it, or under 1.5 at minus 130. I do think this is a round one Mokayev type of situation. The under 1.5 gives you the opportunity for this to go slightly into round 2 and still not be sweating it. Or if Gordon throws some fluky, flying triangle or something like that and gets the win, that'll still be included in there, but I think it's just a cheaper way to pay on Mohamed Mokayev because I expect him to get the win, and I expect him to style getting the win. AJ Dobson taking on Armen Petrosyan. We have got Dobson 185, Petrosyan 186, and Dobson looks strong on the scales today, folks. Really good shape, big flex. You know, I listened to the weigh-in stream, and what they were talking about is apparently Dobson brought in Mark the Hammer Coleman, so we know he's working on that wrestling, and I guess he had a knee problem. So his last couple of fights, he's been fighting injured with a knee issue. He needed a surgery to fix it, and was just kind of trying to grind his way through and keep on going without getting it fixed. He's gotten it fixed now, so apparently he's been working really hard on his wrestling. He's been working really hard on his cardio and his conditioning because those are things he could not do in his last couple of fights with that knee problem. So we're expecting to see a brand new version of AJ Dobson, at least according to him. He's a young fighter with a skill set that I like. I wouldn't be shocked if these are true things. Armen Petrosyan looked exhausted on the scales, I'll be honest. Gave a half-hearted flex, maybe a bit of a tough cut, but like, that's one of those ones where I'm not concerned about it, right? He doesn't look like he's dead on the scale. He just looks like he got off the treadmill. So you can't really blame the guy for being tired when he just got done making his weight cut. Respectful face-off. These guys size up really well. This is going to be a banger. I picked Armen Petrosyan early in the week. He's minus 210 right now. Plus 180 on AJ Dobson seems very, very intriguing. And then honestly, the Dobson KO or the Dobson like early props, you know, KO round 1, KO round 2, those seem like they're very interesting to me. We've seen Armen get clipped and hurt before, and the way he fights, he's kind of a wild man. He does come forward and puts himself in a little bit of danger and is there to be hit. So if Dobson is this 2.0 version of himself, maybe he can crack him and get the win. I'm not laying minus 210 on Armen Petrosyan. I'm picking him to win, but I don't like that line. This would be a dog or pass betting perspective spot here for me. No action on the line. Abubakar Nurmagomedov taking on Gadzhiev, and by the way, I've been pronouncing that wrong apparently. Thank you, John Anik. It is Gadzhiev, so you really gotta lean into the re here on this guy's name. Abubakar looked in solid shape, 170.5 pounds, 171 for Gadzhiev, and Gadzhiev looked intense on the scale, very cocky. Gave a quick little flex and smirk up there, dropping to a new weight class. Seems like he didn't have any issues getting there. This is a very respectful face-off. I mean, they threw their arms around each other and posed, you know, for the photos and stuff like that. This is the only Russian-on-Russian fight on this card. People don't really like that, obviously, because it's kind of a Russian showcase card. I get it. It makes sense, but these guys have got to do battle in there in the cage. So Gadzhiev is slightly larger than Nurmagomedov. You would expect that with him dropping down a weight class. Abubakar Nurmagomedov is a minus 165, plus 145 on Gadzhiev on the other side. The total's 2.5, and I've been debating this under basically all week. Plus 165 for the under 2.5. Gadzhiev has shown some good finishing capabilities. He's also shown some defensive holes. Same thing with Nurmagomedov. You got to wonder if this is a fight where both guys are really going out to kill. Maybe they're not. You know, maybe they're being a little too friendly with one another and it goes over. I'm going to pass. I'm going to stay off this fight. I kind of leaned dog and I kind of leaned under. I think Gadzhiev is maybe being a little overlooked this week because he's coming off a loss and he's fighting a Nurmagomedov at the same time. I don't know what he's going to look like at this new weight class. He could be a beast down here at 170. He could also just not be that good. So this is one that I think is perfectly fine to just kind of keep your money in your pockets and pass, watch, see what happens, take some notes. Hopefully it's a fun fight for us. I'm rooting for a finish, and I'm going to pick the underdog, but I don't think I'm going to bet it. Next up, we've got Nikita Krylov taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Both guys made 206 this morning. Nikita came in with a big old goofy smile on his face. Solid flex, looked good up there. Classic Volk. He did not look very good on the scales, but you know what? He's one of those guys, just physically never all that intimidating, so you can't really expect much more from Oezdemir. Decent bit larger is Nikita Krylov in this face-off. That's something I wasn't quite expecting. I know Nikita's a big dude, but wasn't expecting him to kind of have that size advantage over Volkan that he does. This was a very intense stare down. Volkan Oezdemir has made some adjustments. He's moved camps. You know, it's a spot where you kind of think maybe he's going to show some improvements and bounce back. Plus 160, the underdog. Minus 180 on Nikita Krylov. And folks, I think I have to stop hating on Nikita Krylov. This is one that's been bugging me basically all week. You know, I said dog or pass earlier in the week, but it was something I wasn't very confident in. Volkan Oezdemir, even though he's switched camps, even though he's working with better guys, like, he's still just shown that he's more than willing to jump into a brawl, and he's chinny, he's been clipped, he's been hurt, he's been wobbled, and his last fight against Paul Craig was against a guy who had no knockout threat whatsoever. So yeah, he had a good big brain fight IQ type of fight. There was no knockout threat, so he looked fine. I don't like Nikita Krylov. I don't know what it is. I've got some built-in internal bias against this guy. Maybe it's the fact that I tried to get him a couple times and just barely missed on some bets. But I feel like he's probably the side here. He's minus 180 now, so some love has come in on Nikita Krylov, and I'm going to switch my pick. It was a very half-hearted dogger pass earlier in the week. I'm going to go ahead and get in on the Nikita Krylov side. I'll stop trying to get around this guy. He probably wins this fight against Volkan Oezdemir. The under 2.5, though, minus 170, it's interesting because this line was much, much higher at other books around the market. There were other places that had it minus 190, minus 200. So I thought you were getting kind of a discount here at Superbook Sports on this under 2.5, minus 170. However, it was minus 175 earlier. So it's not only been lower than the rest of the market, it has gone the other way. That's the kind of thing that kind of has my alarm bells going off. If you're thinking violence in this fight, which if it's a Nikita Krylov fight, you're probably always thinking violence, that's alarming because he should be able to finish Volkan Oezdemir, and Oezdemir is the kind of guy that if he's winning, he might get that knockout. So the fact that it's moving the other direction when it's off market and popular, very concerning. I'm kind of thinking Nikita Krylov by decision. That's going to be the angle that I take on this one, just kind of watching the market, seeing the way these guys size up. Oezdemir has a great takedown defense game. However, Nikita Krylov is decently larger. He might be able to crack that takedown defense and spend some time grinding on the mat. And when they're on the feet, the footwork, the movement, this will be an even kickboxing match, I feel like. But Nikita Krylov will have that distance and range advantage with the kicks. So he probably just kind of picks and pokes, outpoints his way to a decision. And if he can mix in a couple takedowns, maybe doesn't quite get the finish, but seals up the dub. So I'll pick Nikita. I'll say the over, which is completely opposite from my earlier looks in the week, though not one I'm very confident on at all. Next up, Caio Borralho taking on Mahmoud Muradov. I apologize. Caio made 186. Mahmoud Muradov made 185.5. Caio looks great. I mean, doing his fun thing. He usually rocks the sunglasses, does the arm spread wide thing, big old cheesy smile on his face. How do you not love this guy? He's very entertaining, very confident in himself, just oozing confidence up there on the scales today. Looked fantastic. Now, Muradov, on the other hand, had a blank, intense stare on his face, gave a huge flex. This guy looked very strong on the scales today. Not very sucked out either, which I was surprised. I expected him to be shredded up a little bit more. Looks like he made weight, and he did it decently comfortably. This is a decent size advantage for Mahmoud Muradov. I was kind of expecting another even size up, or maybe Caio maybe being a little bit bigger. But if anything, Mahmoud is the guy who is slightly larger. Caio was intense today, though, folks. Like, Mahmoud wasn't having it. He was very relaxed. Dana White got nervous and was, stepping in to, split these guys up. And Muradov was like, no, that's cool. I'm good. Caio, though, on the other hand, looked like he was going to try to eat Muradov at the face-off. So if you're looking for somebody to win the mental edge of things, Caio probably did win the face-offs this morning. I do have a 2-unit bet on Mahmoud Muradov, however. Plus 175 is the underdog. I like him here. Caio has had some holes in his striking game. He's got that karate style, which leads to a little bit of tall man defense. We've seen him gas out and slow down later in fights, which is dangerous against a guy who's got 5 third-round knockout finishes. I think if there's a guy who can take advantage of some of the holes in Caio Borralho's game, it is Mahmoud Muradov. And Caio is just flying so high right now on the Dana White Contender Series thing. We see these guys fly close to the sun, their wings burn off, and they crash. Yes, that's an Icarus reference. I think that's this week for Caio Borralho. Now, if he gets by Mahmoud Muradov, then he's probably just off to the damn races being a prospect. But I think he has his hands full with Mahmoud Muradov, a focused Mahmoud Muradov, not someone who's disrespecting his opponent and looking past them like he did Gerald Meerschaert in his last fight. This should be a banger, and I expect violence. Caio came out and said very specifically that he's not letting this one go to the judges' scorecards. So if you want to take a violent standpoint on this fight in some way, I don't mind that at all. Next up, Sean Brady taking on Belal Mohamed. Brady came in at 171, Mohamed 170, and Brady looked good. Very relaxed on the scales, no issues there. Belal Mohamed, discount double check, did the where's my belt thing up there. Looked good, rocking the sunglasses like usual at the weigh-ins, the face-offs, the presser. Yeah, you gotta love the bully, right? He's got that signature look. Slight size advantage here for Belal. Brady's back is thicker. Now, every time Brady fights, I talk about the dude's back. It's unreal how large this man's back is. but Belal Mohamed is still the slightly bigger guy. Now, Sean Brady is a minus 130 favorite, and Belal Mohamed has been plus 120 all week, ticked down to plus 110 here in this spot. So finally, a little bit of love coming back on Belal. Folks, I am tempted on Belal. I really am. Belal's not a guy I've had the greatest read on in UFC history, but I don't think he deserves to be the underdog in this spot. And Sean Brady, he's hyped up, but he hasn't really fought anybody, and Belal is incredibly difficult to take down. So if we end up with kind of a boxing match, I don't see why Belal can't win this thing. It's going to go over. It's going to go to a decision. I don't know how either of these guys finish, quite frankly. But I'm tempted dog or pass. I think that Belal should be favored here, but it's such thin value. Like, I don't really want to go against Brady. You lose money going against these Renzo Gracie guys. So, Philly Gracie, you've taken enough money from me. I'm not going to bet it, but I am going to go ahead and pick Belal Mohamed. Next up, this is where things get a little interesting for the day, folks. Katlyn Chookagian, Manon Fiorot. Chookagian misses weight. She needed the box of shame and did not continue to cut. Very, very interesting, because Katlyn Chookagian's a consummate professional. She's been around the sport forever. She does not miss weight. She does not have these problems. So very interesting that she missed by 1.5 pounds. Manon Fiorot made 125.5, no problems there. She did give a big, deep breath when they called it, though, so seems like it might have been a little bit of a tough cut, but she seemed okay on the scales. When they face off, Chookagian is definitely the larger woman of the two, and she stepped in hard, folks. Like, Katlyn Chookagian has a chip on her damn shoulder right now. She stepped in hard and was staring down Manon Fiorot. As soon as they broke, she immediately got her smile back and looked at the crowd, having a good time. But, like, she is laser focused here on her opponent. Something that we don't see usually this much intensity. Now, Manon Fiorot is a minus 110 favorite. Her opponent, Katlyn Chookagian, is plus 180 underdog. She's really been the gatekeeper of this division for a long, long time. And that number is, quite frankly, almost a little bit disrespectful. I feel like this line should be maybe a little bit closer. Now, again, this is another one where earlier in the week, I was with everybody else. I'm on the Manon Fiorot train, talking about how she can hip toss Katlyn, get on top of her, TKO her. In fact, Manon Fiorot called for the second round TKO herself in this spot, but the closer we get to fight time, guys, the more I just get the heebie-jeebies on this one. Like, I cannot get it out of my head that Katlyn Chookagian shouldn't be this big of an underdog. She's got the height, she's got the reach, and on top of that, we know how she just chooks people. Like, even in fights where she probably should lose, she finds a way to win. She sells the fact that she's got more volume than her opponents with the kiosks that she does. We've seen her do it over and over, and I don't want to lay minus 210 to find out that Katlyn Chookagian is once again going to steal a decision from somebody. Now, you can get Katlyn Chookagian by split decision at 10-1 out there, which, by the way, that should almost be an auto bet. Like, there's a few auto bets in this industry. When certain fighters show up, Andrei Arlovski, you know it's going to a split decision and you know he's getting the win. Katlyn Chookagian is a split decision and a split decision win type of fighter. So at 10-1, maybe we sprinkle on Katlyn Chookagian by decision just a little bit. And plus 180 is the underdog. I mean, I guess the biggest thing here for me is I'm spooked by the lack of line movement here. Everybody we know is hammering Manon Fiorot. There's maybe like 2 people picking Katlyn Chookagian in this spot. Almost nobody is picking the underdog. Everyone is piling in, hand over fist, wanting to put money on flashy Manon Fiorot. And this line has not budged. Not even an inch. Very concerning. So if anything, I am not betting Manon. I will be looking at the Katlyn Chookagian side. If I lock in a bet, of course, you'll find out on Twitter, social medias, Instagram, that kind of thing. But I'm looking at Katlyn Chookagian and probably going to have to sprinkle that split decision prop at this point because I do expect this fight's going to be close. And with Katlyn missing weight, that's another big question mark because we're not sure what happened, right? Like, she didn't look bad. I don't think Katlyn would cheat. I think she's too proud for that. I think she's too professional for that. I don't think she'd come in heavy on purpose for like an advantage. But I do worry about the fact that maybe she added some mass. She's been working with Gregor Gillespie, working hard on her wrestling as opposed to like her BJJ. She did get promoted to BJJ black belt, mind you. But she's been working very, very hard on her wrestling. And she looked a little thicker to me on the scales today. If she has tried to like muscle up, maybe that explains why the weight cut went a little tougher for her. Maybe she's a little thicker in there than she's used to being and miscalculated. I'm not sure it's a disadvantage. I'm also not sure it's an advantage. So again, lots of question marks. Might end up being a dog or pass situation. I'm not laying minus 210 at this point. Maybe we jump in live. Because if round 1 is close and we get that situation where Manon Fiorot becomes a larger favorite because they assume she won it, but it could have gone either way, live bet Katlyn Chookagian. You know, something along those lines. If Katlyn Chookagian has success in the grappling, if she's able to wrestle Manon Fiorot, pile in. That's going to be the biggest sign you can have. If Katlyn can actually hit takedowns, you know, if she goes full off on Manon Fiorot in Russia, like, then you just jump in as much as you can on the live line for Katlyn Chookagian. Next up, Beneil Dariush taking on Mateusz Gamrot, 156 for both men. Business as usual for Beneil Dariush. Got on, got off. He is not going to be bothered by these types of things. Gamrot, fantastic shape. I mean, at the presser the other day, he didn't even bother wearing a shirt to that thing. He likes how he looked. He's a little bit sucked out on the scales today, but he moved well enough. I'm not really worried about it. Gamrot looks slightly bigger at the face-off, but we do need to note he was wearing shoes. Beneil Dariush was not, so they probably size up pretty well. Maybe Gamrot's a little bit bigger, but not like by a ton. This was a very respectful face-off. Benny just never looks bothered. He's not a beef type of guy. Minus 185 for Mateusz Gamrot, plus 165 for Beneil Dariush. I know a lot of sharp people that I really respect on Benny in this spot, and I can understand, like, he's got an extremely well-rounded skill set. He really does, and he is one of the most underrated guys in the division. The thing is, I just think the wrestling of Gamrot is going to be too much. I know Benny's good on the ground. I know he can scramble. I know he's got high-level jiu-jitsu, but I choose wrestling over jiu-jitsu almost always. Like, I just think that the strong wrestlers with good sub-D are going to be able to handle these jiu-jitsu guys offensively from their backs. And in MMA, if you're on top, you're winning. I think Mateusz Gamrot is going to be the side. Benny has a tendency to go hard early and then gas himself out. Gamrot can go for 15 minutes hard. And on top of that, he's got that right hand. The same nuke that we've seen Benny go down to a couple of different times. I'm on the Gamrot side. I wouldn't mind the KO. I kind of like the round 3 sprinkle. He closes out my parlay from earlier on in the evening. As long as Karol Rosa gets it done for me, Mateusz Gamrot is going to be my anchor here at a decent price tag. Next up, we've got Sean O'Malley taking on Petr Yan. O'Malley 135.5, Petr Yan 136. O'Malley did look a little bit sucked out. He had some cool sunglasses today. Like, usually I knock people for the sunglasses. We know there's a couple personalities on this card that do the sunglasses thing. They get passes. Sean O'Malley's one of them. But his sunglasses were pretty cool. I'll give him that. Obviously, cut up. This guy's huge. Making this weight cut cannot be easy for him, but he gave a big flex. Look good. Petr Yan in fantastic shape. This guy, short, thick, brick house. Like the exact opposite of Sean O'Malley. He looked intense on the scales, but he knew better than to scream today at the weigh-ins. He learned his lesson not to scream at the weigh-ins today. Dana White never even let these guys get close to each other. You know, Yan shoved O'Malley at the ceremonials, so he wasn't going to let them run that back. Both guys talking from a distance at one another. Obviously, Sean is much taller, much longer. Man, this fight has me in knots. I know so many sharp, smart people who are just laying it with Yan. Now that this line has come down a decent bit, they are piling in hand over fist on Yan, and I get it, I really do. But there's something inside me that can't help it. Even though I'm the Sean O'Malley hater, even though I'm the guy that likes to call him out and talk trash about him, like, he has targeted every single opponent he's ever had, and he's got such physical advantages here over Petr Yan. If he uses that big cage, if he uses that footwork, the outside movement, keeps it at distance, doesn't let Yan hit him, I actually think Sean O'Malley's live in this spot. Now, I don't think that he can finish Yan. Yan is a guy that we've seen take everybody's best shot, never been bothered by it. I don't know that O'Malley, even, you know, with how hard he can hit at times, is going to be the one to actually crack Petr Yan. So what's got me intrigued at this point is the over 2.5 at the minus 290 price tag, and then Sean O'Malley by decision. It's plus 450 right now on Superbook Sports, and I believe it was plus 500 a little earlier in the week. So that line has gotten some love and is moving at this point. I think we could be in for a greasy decision, and if he plays it smart, I think Sean O'Malley can actually win this fight, believe it or not. Now, Yan by TKO is absolutely something that's on the table, because we've seen O'Malley's durability concerns. We've seen when he gets put on the back foot and he gets marched down, he's not nearly as effective. But I also think that being in the large cage will help that, because if Petr Yan does try to come forward, O'Malley's going to have more than enough room to circle out and change the angles on him. It's not the small apex cage where he's going to get cornered super quickly. Plus 270 on Petr Yan by knockout doesn't seem bad. And I do think this fight probably goes the distance here. So Petr Yan by decision is minus 110 here. So another one where I think I'm going to have the hot take of Sean O'Malley actually wins. I know, right? Like me, of all people, picking Sean O'Malley to win. I might sprinkle that O'Malley decision prop but that would be the only thing that I would be interested in here. So I'm probably mostly going to leave this alone. And another spot where we just watch closely live. It's a 3-round fight that changes a lot of things. The way Petr approaches this fight changes a lot of things, because if he's willing to sit back and high shell the way that he usually does, I think that's Sean O'Malley's best win condition. If he comes out aggressive, hard, and early, Petr probably wins this thing by finish. So I'm going to be watching round 1 very, very closely for this fight. Co-main event, Aljamain Sterling taking on TJ Dillashaw. Both guys made 135. Crazy shredded. Aljamain Sterling's physicality, like he's got some good genetics, and he also probably has a good doctor. Like, fantastic shape. TJ Dillashaw, blank stare, no emotion, looked great on the scales today as well. Seems like both guys didn't have really much of an issue making this cut. Aljamain's slightly taller, slightly larger. We know that. He's got that advantage over most people in the division. Both guys jawing here today, talking at each other. Honestly, TJ has done a really good job of staying very emotionally controlled until this moment. And honestly, I tweeted this out yesterday, guys, and I know a lot of people did not agree with me, but TJ has the air about him of a man who knows. Like, the uncrowned king. He never lost his title. He never lost a fight in this weight class to anybody. And quite frankly, if he didn't get it stripped, he probably would still be champ at this point. Like, I know a lot of people might think that's a hot take and believe that Petr is better than him. I'm not entirely sure that that's accurate. He is so well-rounded. TJ Dillashaw is a generational talent that people do not appreciate because of the USADA situation. I've got a big 5-unit bomb on him, plus 145. This line has been ping-ponging a little bit. It bounced back up to plus 155. It's back down to plus 145 at this point. And quite frankly, I believe TJ. He told Aljamain today that he's the champ, and not only that, he's putting him to sleep. I'm going to sprinkle these round 4 and 5 props here for TJ Dillashaw because he gets stronger the deeper the fight goes. And we've got round 4 at 30-1, round 5 at 40-1 on Superbook Sports. I have those. I am sprinkling those. It's interesting because this is why we love Superbook Sports. Most of the other books have those round 4 and 5s much lower. And those other books actually have the KO TKO round 4, round 5 in that ballpark. Now, granted, that is the best path to victory for TJ. If it's going to be a finish, it's probably going to be a TKO. But let's not forget, he's an extremely well-rounded mixed martial arts. Why do we need to pick TKO when we can get the submission included in there? I think it's TKO. I would bet the TKO if I had to choose one, but the numbers are so good at Superbook Sports, you don't got to pick. So probably a decision. This one probably goes all 5 rounds. You know, Aljamain Sterling is a very hard guy to get out of there, but the way TJ is coming, the intensity, the way that he's putting his stamp on the fact that he's going to break and make Aljamain Sterling quit, the confidence exuding from him, I was already on him. These are all just bias confirmations for me here at this point. I believe him. I'm going to be taking the round 4 and 5 finish sprinkles for TJ Dillashaw, and I've already got the 5-unit bomb on the money line. You know, I'm undefeated 4-0 on my max 7-unit bets, and I'm tempted to throw another 2 on there and make this one a 7-unit play. This is one of those spots that getting TJ Dillashaw plus 145, where at worst he should be a minus 110. I know it's relatively thin value, but at the same time, it's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime spot because TJ probably won't be this price tag again very often until the point that you really don't want to back him. You know what I mean? Like, when he is this price tag again, it's a time you're not going to want to actually go with him. I think he's still well enough in his prime, and I think this is a decent enough stylistic matchup for him. I think TJ wins on Saturday. Next up, Charlie Islam Makhachev. It is main event time, folks. This is the one. Both guys made 154.5. Charles was the first one to the scales, and he ran to the scales today. You know, he missed and got stripped of his belt last time out, so coming in a half-pound under, making a statement, really showing big energy. Charles and Islam just have this whole place erupting right now. The crowd was chanting for Islam when he got up on the scales. He looks like he's in fantastic shape as well. Charles roaring at the ceremonial face-offs at the crowd. This was an incredibly intense stare-down. They went nose to nose. Charles is slightly larger, but just pure confidence being expressed by both men. I've struggled with this fight from a betting perspective all week, folks. I've talked about it over and over and over again. I don't think I can bet this one. I don't think I can. Like, being the seeded champion, Charles Oliveira, I know he got stripped, but he should be the champ. As an underdog, I think it's disrespectful. Getting this kind of a price tag on Islam against a guy that he should be able to take down and wrestle, I get it. Like, those are all things that make perfect sense to me here in this spot. So you can argue really strongly for either of these guys, and nothing at the weigh-ins really did anything to tip me one way or the other, except for Charles' blatant disrespect of Islam. As soon as they got done from the face-offs, he came back, and the UFC shared a clip of him saying, "I'm going to kill this guy." And it's like, his self-belief is through the roof right now. A lot of people, myself included, have doubted Charles Oliveira a long way across this road, and he's been aiming for Khabib. He's got Khabib Jr. here in Islam in front of him, and he believes he's going to just run straight through this man. That's the kind of thing where if I needed something to push me over the edge, I'm going to lean with the dog. I'm going to lean with the champ. I've been bouncing back and forth all week, folks. I am not going to have an official pick for this fight. I am not going to have a big investment financially for this fight. My heart and soul are rooting Charles Oliveira. My brain is telling me Islam Makhachev wins this fight. So probably should bet with the brain. But since I'm not going to have an investment on it, I'm going to say Charles do Bronx Oliveira, folks. Let's look at the props for a second. Total set at 2.5, the under 2.5 minus 150, the over 2.5 plus 130. I actually have seen alternate totals of 1.5 out there, like minus 155, minus 160. I don't mind that. I think this fight might last a little bit longer than people are expecting. Charles Oliveira KO TKO plus 525. That's juicy because realistically, is he submitting Islam Makhachev, this good of a grappler? I don't think so. So plus 290, even though Charles submits almost everybody, I'd be more favoring him on the feet. The problem is he's going to have less opportunities to be on the feet because he's fighting a grappler. So that's one of those ones where you're getting a juicy number and it looks fantastic, but also slightly lower outcome unless he can actually like dissuade Islam from takedowns, unless he can actually defend a couple takedowns or hit a hip toss or reverse position or something that forces Islam to stand with him for a bit mid-fight. The submission is probably more likely because, let's face it, if he does go ahead and get in there and cause a scramble, get his back, roll for a heel, like, he's not going to be in KO territory for any of those things. He'll still be hunting that submission. Islam Makhachev, by decision, believe it or not, has my attention because it's plus 425. This guy's a grinder. Now, I know we've seen Charles Oliveira rocked and hurt and knocked out before. Islam's not that kind of a striker. Now, maybe he can Dagestani handcuff him, tie him down, pin him, and just pound away at him, get the referee TKO stoppage, plus 475. That doesn't sound bad. The story's there. 5-round fight. It all looks good. But if he can't quite control Charles Oliveira as well as he thinks he can, if Charles keeps being squirmy and scrambly and he doesn't hit him hard enough to rock him or wobble him or have him not quite being all there, Charles is going to be constantly attacking from his back. Charles is going to be constantly looking for offense of his own, and that's going to make him hard to control. I think Islam by decision at plus 425 would be the way I would look. And again, those overs, if you like Islam, I think the overs are an easy way to kind of buy down on him. Say he survives the first round or two, and then he's going to coast his way to a decision because that's what we see these Russians do a lot. Maybe we see a late championship round style finish, but more often than not, I think if Islam wins, it's going deep. Charles Oliveira, if he wins, it's probably a flashy finish. Maybe if Islam gets tired in the championship rounds, 3 or 4, something like that would be intriguing. But it's probably also early. Round 1, starching him type of thing. Unexpected, can't quite handle the champ, those types of situations. This is such a fun fight, folks. You can literally make an argument for any play on the board here in this main event, and because of that, I think there's better spots on the card. I'm just going to watch this one as a fan. That is the Undefeated post-weigh-in show, folks. I wish you massive amounts of luck on your betting card tomorrow. Biggest card of the year. I am so excited. I can't wait for this one. Follow up with us. I'm going to do a sharp action report over with Superbook Sports. We're going to get the look from across the counter and see what's come in from their respected players. We'll have that up a little bit later in the day for you to check out. Follow me at Die Hard MMA Pod on socials, and I just hope you guys crush it. Get rich tomorrow betting the UFC. We got a full day of fights. Mimosa and waffles, baby. We're drinking at 8 a.m. Let's go. Let's roll. Have a great day.